Now it should work. Hi everyone. How are we doing? If you're hearing water in the background, it's my dishwasher working overtime. How's everyone doing today? Thank you for coming to my live stream, and I've taken over Chesh's channel again. Wow. The overtake is complete. The melon lord has won. Hey, Athens, I corrected it. It should be now working. Yeah, it should be now working. But thank you again for keeping me on track. So Claire did another stream, and it looks like she and her co-host read another chapter of the 48 Laws of Power. This time it's chapter 39, Stir the Waters, How Anger Becomes a Power Trap. And I listened to it and I was like face palming again, because today we'll watch it today that, you know, Claire and her co-host, they just take one useful idea that is, do not make irreversible decisions while emotionally flooded. And then what they go ahead and do with that idea is they bury it beneath a mountain of pseudo-strategic power language. The useful lesson is always that ordinary emotional regulation is important. Pause, verify, document, set boundaries, and respond proportionally. The bad lesson is that calmness proves strength, anger proves weakness, reactions reveal secret motives, and whoever appears least bothered is probably winning. So I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. And so here we are again. There's not much in the description. It says review and commentary of chapter 39, yada yada yada, buy us a coffee, blah blah blah, and then the hashtags, and at the bottom also there are a lot of hashtags, and then the music that they have used. She's giving some credit to some people for using the intro and outro music. Fine. My interest is more in her thoughts and her co-host thoughts about what they are covering today. Jack analysis. I saw that in the Discord. That's a lot of smoke. Yeah. Was it windy that day? I hope it's not too windy. Some smoke can travel, but if it's windy, it travels faster, and you get a lot more in your area. So just keep an eye on the wind direction, I would suggest. We're talking about the wildfires that have been happening in the UK now because of the temperature fluctuations, especially going in the upper degree Celsius, and causing a lot of discomfort for everyone. It's been a very hot summer. So that's a tangent we just went on. So the irony of all this is that when I heard this was that Claire and her co-host, they eventually admitted themselves that what they say is that calm person can be completely wrong and still look correct. And once they make that admission, their own method just collapses. And they're no longer teaching or conveying how to identify truth. They're just teaching or conveying how to perform credibility. A performance. That's what they're telling people, how to perform credibility. So again, that's what we will do, what we do always. We will go timestamp by timestamp, separate good conflict management advice from mind reading, fake precision, quote myths, cherry-picked history, and a truly remarkable amount of always, never, every time, 90% and 99% with no data attached. The recurring errors we will see are demeanour fallacy, which is treating calmness and confidence, eye contact, or emotional restraint as evidence, tone policing, mind reading and motive fallacy, fundamental attribution error, which is turning one dysregulated movement into a judgment about stable character, hasty generalization, fake precision, attaching numbers such as quote-unquote 90% or 99% to an unsupported impression, self-sealing theory, anger proves you took the bait, silence proves strength, calmness proves power, any possible outcome confirms the theory, Post hoc casual storytelling, putting two events in chronological order and implying that the first caused the second. Outcome bias, calling conduct wise or good merely because it produced the desired result. Descriptive to normative slide, moving from, quote, this can influence people to, quote, this is a good way to treat people. This is a new one that I found out. Aphorism laundering, using a quotation from Sun Tzu, the Dalai Lama, or a poet as if it were empirical evidence. Rumor laundering, we have seen, Claire does that a lot. And also disclaimer laundering. So we will start with 238. I have increased it to the speed to 1.1, and I have closed captions on. I will see if I can get the transcripts on. Yep, there we go with the transcripts. And we'll start with 238. 238 timestamp. I'm trying to skip music and stuff and just keep to the points. Bam, bam, bam. So hopefully I finish my stream before Chesh starts. So she can comfortably start her stream without me, Or I'll try to, if I'm not able to finish this stream before Chesh's stream, I'll do a part 2. That's always an option. All right. So actually, I will start from 7:30. Let's start from 7:30 because 2:38 it's just greetings and stuff. That's opening and their housekeeping. So we'll just move on to 7:30. Let's start from 7:30. Here we go. 7:30. There we go. You didn't hear Claire? Oh, okay, I see why you didn't hear Claire. Sorry, my bad. No, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You're helping me, man. You're helping me. We're all professionals here. You're helping me. Here we go. Here we go. Sorry, I forgot. Here we go.
Yeah, just his writings. Stir up waters to catch fish.
Yes. And it goes. Judgment. Anger and emotions are strategically counterproductive. You must always stay calm and objective, but if you can make your enemies angry while staying calm yourself, you gain a decided advantage. Put your enemies off balance. Find the chink in their vanity through which you can rattle them and hold the strings. I like strings. I generally put them on my guitar so I can play.
I like them. I like violins. Yeah, no. I don't know what that has to do with this law, but let's go. All right. So, rather than wait to tell you the modern interpretive explanation, like how would we explain this better in simple terms to what you can apply to your everyday life, not in big business? I mean, yes, these things work for achieving goals.
Business,
they're often used for business, getting power in group settings, in group endeavors, things you're working together to accomplish. Okay, but mostly big business and not really our day-to-day world. Not really that, gotta make the money, like I said, cutthroat, dog eat dog kind of atmosphere. More for simpler terms to us to apply every day, that modern explanation would be more like when you get angry and embarrassed or defensive, you're more likely to react impulsively. You say too much, make choices you later regret. You need to stay calm when somebody tries to provoke you, especially in public, and at work, online, or in an argument. If you can recognize what triggers another person, you may see their real priorities, insecurities, or weak spots when they overreact. But the smartest use of this law is often defensive. Don't take the bait. Don't let someone else control your emotions. And don't give them the reaction they were hoping for. For me, this is the clearest interpretation of Law 39 to apply to everyday life, because this applies everywhere. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. It's all about making sure you don't get pulled in by that rage bait.
So they are reading the Law 39, and they read it, and they're saying, for example, they've read it as stay calm and objective, made enemies angry, exploit vanity, and put them off balance. Claire's translates into everyday advice about impulsivity and, quote, not taking the bait, unquote. There are two different claims that are being smuggled here together. Claim 1: intense emotion can sometimes narrow attention, increase impulsivity, and make a person say or do something they later regret. That is reasonable. Claim 2: anger and emotion are strategically counterproductive, while calmness is the superior state. That is an absolute, and it is false. It's false. Anger is not one behavioral program. It can impair judgment, but it can also increase effort towards difficult goals. Communicate that a boundary has been crossed, mobilize collective action, or produce concessions in negotiation. Whether it helps depends on the intensity, context, culture, target, legitimacy, and regulation. Notice also that quote unquote stay objective and quote unquote make your enemies angry are morally asymmetric. The speaker is encouraged to regulate themselves while deliberately dysregulating someone else. That is not just merely self-protection, it is an instruction in manipulation. You're saying that manipulate someone else. The defensible version would be notice emotional activation, delay irreversible reaction, and choose a response aligned with your goals and values. That does not require inventing enemies, probing vanity, or treating human beings like fish to be hooked. And there's no research that they show, and I have also not found any research that supports a simple quote unquote or a black and white quote unquote anger bad and calm good rule. Anger has been associated with increased effort and success on challenging goals, while negotiation studies have found that anger can elicit concessions in some settings. Although it can also backfire. That is fine. But that's just one part of it. It's not the whole thing. Emotion regulation research also distinguishes reappraisal from merely suppressing outward expression. Looking calm is not the same as thinking clearly. Where I found it, I've got research, if people, want to know. So the American Psychological Association, right? This is the one I found. It's called Angry Goals. I can bring it up here. Want to achieve your goals? Get angry. Especially in today's climate, if you want your government and your local congressman and your local senate to act, especially the ones who are not from your, thought process, like if you're a Democrat, they're conservative or vice versa, then yeah, getting angry is important. It's really, really important. Here we go. And then there's another one. This one is called Individual Differences in Two Emotion Regulation Processes, Implications for Affect Relationships and Well-Being. That's Journal of personality and social psychology. Here we are. That's another one. I'll put it in the chat. Here we go. More. And then there's another one I have. The interpersonal effects of anger and happiness in negotiations. That's by Van Cleef. Again, and this is in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology again. Here we go. I'll bring it up here again. Right? And it can be put in here. So these are, I'm not just saying out of the blue. I have looked into this. So looking calm is not the same as thinking clearly. Number one, emotion regulation, like, for example, that anger can also elicit concessions in some settings. It's not always bad as they're trying to present it as. So the errors and fallacies that they are committing here are, hold on, let me just bring it down a little bit here so you can see it. Right, and I'll make it more. Yeah. Yep. So the fallacies are the false universal that emotion is not always counterproductive. False dichotomy, calm objective versus emotional irrational. Ethical laundering, manipulation is reframed as strategic intelligence. It can be in some circumstances, but not always. And they're just using it in generalized terms. Loaded language, quote unquote, enemy, primes, adversarial thinking in ordinary relationships. Workplace is not a battlefield. All right? People just go to work to do their job and come back. And you will be surprised how much teamwork people do. I can say it from personal experience because I work. I go to work. My team is one of the best teams I have. Nobody is bothered about trying to get any reaction out of anyone. Everybody is just trying to get the work done. That's it. In the most productive way possible. And actually, if someone missteps or someone, misses something, everyone else is ready to, support them and cover that gap. So I don't know where this is coming from. This is so regressive. This is such regressive thinking. Enemies. So again, emotion regulation is not equal to emotional suppression. That's not how it works, Claire. And clearly you're too simplistic in your thinking. So the next one is 1014 to 1035, which is immediately the next one. So here we go.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to react. Well, don't let him force your react. In other words, don't give your power away. As soon as you let them control what you're doing and how you're reacting and what you've lost power, you've given it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so to protect your own personal power and just keep on your own path and what you're trying to accomplish for yourself. It's kind of like guarding your peace, right? It's kind of like, being in control of what you actually want to accomplish and not letting them derail you. And because there's always going to be somebody.
Here we go.
In some faction.
There's always going to be somebody.
Of your life. Whether it's that friend of yours that just likes to nag you all the time, it just try to get a rise out of you or make you stumble, a sibling even,
They're not your friend if they're trying to get a rise out of you. Depends on what kind of rise they're getting out of you. And if they're trying to make you stumble, what kind of stumble it is. If it's hurting your career or your life, then they're not your friend. It's simple as that.
Relative, somebody, a co-worker who's constantly trying to one-up you, or take credit for what you do, stuff like that. Online, I mean, a zillion million zillion, trillion. Like, are those even words? I don't know. But you get the picture. So many examples of that online, Dave. It's just, I think you all get it, right? That's what I can be assured of. Those of you here in the chat, those of you that follow me.
Yeah, without explaining it to them, yeah, they will definitely follow you. Also, it's very funny, like, her live chat is not there. I can't see her live chat anymore. She did it for 2 streams, and I think so 3 maximum, and then her live chat is gone again for some reason. And we don't know what they're saying because it's not on the screen. It's a live stream. It's not a premiere. It's not a video. So, yeah. So we don't know, Claire, what your chat thinks because it's not on the screen. I don't know who you're talking to or what you're responding to if you're trying to respond to. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, and there's no chat. You can't see the live chat. I don't know why she disabled it for this one.
We understand that. This part's simple.
That's also another inconsistency that I've seen in her live streams. For some of the live streams, her live chat is working. But then for some of them, she doesn't have live chat enabled. I don't get it. I don't get it. And there's no reason given in the description anywhere for that. We saw that. We saw the description at the start.
Simple, right? This we deal with every day, you know. If you allow yourself to go with the trigger, I mean, it's easy to get triggered. And it's hard.
You're just repeating the same point again and again and again. It's been 4 minutes now. You both are repeating the same point.
Not to let that show and to keep it yourself. I get that. Like, easier said than done is what most people are going to say in response to this, right? They're going to say, oh yeah, that's how do you do that when somebody's in your face about something? Like, how do you actually not react? I'm not saying it's easy.
That's we
all know it's not, but looking at it pragmatically, is it the best thing to do? Take that pause, take that step back. Don't react right away. If you feel a response or a reaction.
This was the chick who came in my live chat and her co-host, not in my live chat, sorry, in my comment section, like she and I had a chat under her comment section where she said that she's not going to answer to my points or my arguments or my criticism because she doesn't like me. And her co-host came under my stream and threw vitriol at me and threw so much, shit at me, and before going away and saying, I'm not going to indulge in any criticism that you have put towards us. These are the people who are saying, walk away and take a step back and don't react right away. These are the people who are telling everyone else. They don't practice what they preach.
Action is warranted after the pause, and you're sure, then go ahead for it. Like, that's your personal choice. Go ahead, do it. Nothing says you can't. Not even the law. The law is just saying don't let them trigger you into an emotional response that you will regret. And that when you can, if you need to, watch what they're doing. Watch how they're trying to do this to you, because usually that's going to expose, when they say their real priorities, they mean their agenda, they mean their purpose, they mean what they're after. And like many of the laws that Greene has laid out, that's useful information to use against them at a later date or when appropriate. When you're not reacting emotionally, you're able to gather information and watch what they're doing and learn where it's coming from and what you can then expose. And it gives you more information on whether or not it's worth a response, whether it's worth your engagement.
So over here, both Claire and her co-host are saying that rage bait gives away the power and that watching someone react can expose their real priorities, quote unquote, agenda or purpose and material to use against them later. This is mind reading, totally mind reading. A reaction tells you whether a person reacted. It does not by itself will identify why they reacted. Anger might reflect shame, fear, injustice, trauma, fatigue, misunderstanding, a threatened value, a deliberate performance, or simply an irritating conversation. the same outward behavior can arise from radically different internal causes. Clare and McCracker, they repeatedly commit the inverse problem. They observe an effect, anger or defensiveness in this case, and then they pretend it uniquely identifies a cause. For example, guilt or vanity or insecurity or an agenda, when it does not. They can be very different internal causes. So they're just trying to do the cause and effect, like putting the cart before the horse. And this is especially dangerous in workplaces and investigations and relationships and even online disputes. Once you have decided that defensiveness is evidence of wrongdoing, or innocent denial becomes self-incriminating, if the person remains calm, that can also be interpreted as manipulative. The theory becomes impossible to disprove. And also they keep escalating in their language. They just keep on escalating. First, it's do not take the bait, which is useful. But then it becomes watch for weak spots, gather information, and use it against them. They are moving from regulation to exploitation and manipulation without acknowledging the ethical transition at all. The FBI's high-value detainee interrogation group review reports that behavioral differences between truth tellers and liars are generally few, weak, and unreliable. Judgments based on speech or behavior alone average only about 54% accuracy. Barely above the chance. This is barely more than 50-50. And familiar cues such as gaze aversion or fidgeting, pauses, and speech errors are unreliable. Emotion and visible anxiety, they're not lie detectors. And my reference for that one is, here we go. Here's my reference for that. Where is it? R1. High value detainee interrogation group. Oh, no, I'm not saving it, sir. I just want to open it. Ah, okay. It's a report. It's a report. A review of science, around, detection, truth, and deception. And this is from FBI. So, yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I can... This is what it's called. I'm sure you can find it if you search for it. Here we go. I think so you can find it. Going next. So the errors and fallacies and other qualifications that they're doing here are motive or mind reading fallacy. And emotional reaction is treated as some direct evidence of a hidden agenda. Insecurity or purpose without corroboration. Fundamental attribution error. A situational reaction is interpreted as proof of a stable trait or motive while context is discounted. There might be more context there. Affirming the consequent. Guilty people may become defensive. This person is defensive, therefore guilt or an agenda is exposed. That's not how it happens. Self-sealing reasoning. Every reaction can be interpreted to support the theory. Every and any reaction. Poisoning the well. Disagreement is pre-labeled as manipulation for some reason. Reaction is data. It's not a diagnosis. And they're making the mistake of that. Moving on from 1416, pointing out fallacies really wins arguments, Yeah, I'm not arguing with them. I'm just criticizing them. And I'm using fallacies to show how they're wrong. I think so I'm making a good point here. In this case, I think so showing fallacies does counter what they're saying and proving what they're doing is wrong. Hopefully, you know. Even if you're right, it's just basically no arguments for your case from your side. Huh? From your side? I'm just criticizing them, dude. We all see they're wrong. Yeah, we can all see they're wrong, and that's what I'm pointing out. I'm just trying to bring more, what do you say, data into it, or to actually show why they're wrong, right? We can see they're wrong, but how do we explain it to anyone else why they're wrong? This is why they're wrong. Moving on.
And we get to start off with a transgression. And I have to go back to goddamn France. You know, this is why I don't try and learn another language. I can't do that. But
French, no.
Any other language. I can speak English and
Just call them names and call it quits. Lol. I wish I could do that, man. That's not me. I don't do that.
belligerent. That's about it. I'm not good at speaking belligerent either. Well, actually, no, I'm pretty fluent at that. Depends on how you get me.
That's true. I think we all can be that way occasionally. But at least this historical example is two of you.
That's the best way to express yourself negatively towards others. I don't know. Like, criticism is not always negative, is it? And pointing out how someone is wrong is not negative. It's like you learn something from it. If you're learning something, then it's not really negative. Yeah, Athens, you're right. Pointing out fallacies is pointing out errors or flaws in your logic. Yes, you're right.
Your favorite from France. I mean, it's Napoleon. Come on. You can admire Napoleon a bit.
I can.
And who could disagree that Talleyrand was not, I mean, on today's terms, we'd call it politician, you know, but as a court.
So it's not Taliban, as it says in the transcripts. It's Talleyrand. That's what the name is. Hold on, I'll just put it in the live chat. That's what actually they're talking about. They're talking about this person, Talleyrand. I don't know why that's the transcript is just like just wacky.
Warrior as a counselor, as a right-hand guy out there. Like everybody wanted him. He was a master at the game, correct? I mean, as history tells you, you know.
Which game are you talking about? He was master of the game. At the game. Which game?
Not being a historian, but I do read. So would you like to read this? And by the way, everyone, this comes directly from Robert Greene's book. These are his examples, his historical examples of this law being used properly and not properly. First one being not properly, the transgression. And we have a link to the PDF in the description for you if you'd like to follow along.
That's not Chesh.
I'll leave it to you.
That's not Chesh. That's me. Radiant. That's me. So they have Claire and McCricker. They introduce Napoleon and Talleyrand. And they joke about French names and disclaim historical expertise. Claire says, I'm not a historian, but I do read. Having a disclaimer is honest, but I would point out it does not immunize the claims that follow. Just be careful about that. Especially when you follow it by, I read, but I do read. I'm not a historian should lead to modest claims, source checking, and clear attribution. For example, Robert Greene tells this story. Here's what the historians agree on. Here's what is disputed. But instead, what we will see here is it's followed by confident narrative certainty. Thanks, Radiant. So that's what they do. They give a disclaimer, and for some reason, instead of being modest about it, they go with a lot of confident narrative certainty. And we will also see as we go that there's also a recurring anti-rigor move in this stream. They dismiss procedure as pedantry when discussing quotations, names, or context, yet they use those very details to establish authority. We'll see that. I'll explain it. You cannot build a lesson on history and then treat historical accuracy as optional decoration. I'm not going to criticize pronunciation. I'm criticizing the decision that they have made here to use historical anecdotes as evidence without checking whether the anecdote has been simplified, dramatized, or casually overinterpreted. So what they're trying to do here is this is again disclaimer shielding or disclaimer laundering, acknowledging limited expertise without reducing confidence. They are also trying to appeal to borrowed authority. We'll see they treat Greene's narration as historical proof. Preemptive dismissal of correction. Accuracy will be treated as pedantry. So I'll just say it clear. Disclaimer is not a citation. I'll just say that. Moving on. 1618 onwards, sorry.
Absolutely. Okay, so we go like this. In January of 1809, the agitated and anxious Napoleon hurried back to Paris from his Spanish wars. His spies and confidants had confirmed a rumor that his foreign minister Talleyrand had conspired against him with Fouché, the minister of police. Immediately on arrival in the capital, the shocked emperor summoned his ministers to the palace, following them into the meeting right after their arrival.
I will already point out that they've already gotten one detail wrong, or Greene has gotten one detail wrong. I don't know where they're reading it from. And Talleyrand was not Napoleon's foreign minister in January of 1809. He, according to the historical references, he had resigned the office in 1807. He was influential and retained court functions, but he had already resigned from his position of the foreign minister. 1807, so there's a 2-year gap here. I don't know why that's not corrected.
Following them right into the meeting.
And that's my issue here. They just treat whatever Greene is putting out, they don't fact check it. They don't fact check it at all.
Right after their arrival, he began pacing up and down and started rambling vaguely about plotters working against him, speculators bringing down the stock market, legislators delaying his policies, and his own ministers undermining him. As Napoleon talked, Talleyrand leaned on the mantelpiece, looking completely indifferent. Facing Talleyrand directly, Napoleon announced, "For these ministers, treason has begun when they permit themselves to doubt." At the word treason, the ruler expected his minister to be afraid, but Talleyrand only smiled, calmly and bored. The sight of a subordinate apparently serene in the face of charges that could get him hanged pushed Napoleon to the edge. There were ministers, he said, who wanted him dead, and he took a step closer to Talleyrand, who stared back at him unfazed. Finally, Napoleon exploded. "You are a coward," he screamed in Talleyrand's face, "a man of no faith. Nothing is sacred to you. You would sell your own father. I have showered you with riches, and yet there is nothing you would do to hurt me, and there is nothing you would not do to hurt me." The other ministers looked at each other in disbelief. They had never seen this fearless general, the conqueror of most of Europe, so unhinged. "You deserve to be broken like glass. You deserve to be broken like glass," Napoleon continued, stamping I have the power to do it, but I have too much contempt for you to bother. Why didn't I have you hanged from the gates of Tuileries? There we are. But there is still time for that. Yelling, almost out of breath, his face red, his eyes bulging, he went on. You, by the way, are nothing but shit in a silk stocking. What about your wife? You never told me that San Carlos was your wife's lover. Indeed, sir, it did not occur to me that this information had any bearing on your Majesty's glory or my own, said Talleyrand calmly, completely unflustered. After a few more insults, Napoleon walked away. Talleyrand slowly crossed the room, moving with his characteristic limp. As an attendant helped him with his cloak, he turned to his fellow ministers, all afraid they would never see him again, and said, "What a pity, gentlemen, that so great a man should have such bad manners." Despite his anger, Napoleon did not arrest his foreign minister. He merely relieved him of his duties and banished him from the court, believing that for this man humiliation would be punishment enough.
So, again, as I said, the core confrontation that they're reading about is historical, but framing is there's already an error in the framing. Talleyrand was not Napoleon's foreign minister in January of 1809. He had resigned the office in 1807, although he remained influential and retained court functions. And that matters because, quote, the emperor raging at his sitting foreign minister, unquote, conveys a different institutional relationship from, quote, the emperor confronting a former minister and court insider who had been conspiring against him, unquote. More importantly, the story is being used as a behavioral morality play. Angry Napoleon loses, calm Talleyrand wins, but calmness does not make Talleyrand innocent. Sources described an actual conspiracy with Foch concerning Napoleon's removal or succession. The tranquil demeanour was political skill, not proof that the accusation lacked substance. This is a perfect demonstration of why their calm equals credibility heuristic fails. Talleyrand could be composed and engaged in conspiracy. Napoleon could be furious and correct, and that people close to him were plotting. The delivery and the factual proposition are separate questions here. Again, I will correct Claire and McCracker. You should fact check your claims. Talleyrand resigned as foreign minister in 1807. And historical summaries describe him and police minister Joseph Foch as conspiring against Napoleon, followed by Napoleon's denunciation of Talleyrand on 28th of January 1809. I have a reference for that if you would like to have a look at it. Here it is. I have to do the bloody homework for you guys. Charles Maurice de Talleyrand. Early life, life's work. Napoleon discovered who was behind the scheme and denounced Talleyrand on January 28, 1809. If I go and look for 1807. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. So, Talleyrand could no longer reconcile his sense of moderation, longing for personal survival with such willful conqueror. He resigned. The event occurred in 1807 after signing the Treaty of Tilsit. Like, come on, guys, do your research. And there's another one from Hoover Institution. Hi, my unfinished journey. How you doing? Here we go. Indispensable Talleyrand. Like, come on, guys. Do your fucking research. I have to do this for these idiots. So what are the errors and the fallacies they're performing here? If we go and have a look. Just put it back here. That's where we're starting from. Demeanour fallacy. Composure is treated as evidence of truth, innocence, competence, or correctness, even though demeanour cannot establish any of those. Narrative simplification. A complicated event is edited out into a clean morality tale that supports the chosen lesson. Omission of material context. Relevant facts that would complicate the preferred interpretation are left out. Moral halo from composure. Style is allowed to wash over conduct. Calm Talleyrand was not innocent Talleyrand. I would say that.
Man should have such bad manners. Despite his anger, Napoleon did not arrest his foreign minister. He merely relieved him of his duties and banished him from the court, believing that for this man humiliation would be punishment enough. He did not realize that word had quickly spread of his tirade, of how the emperor had completely lost control of himself, and how Talleyrand had essentially humiliated him by maintaining his composure and dignity. A page had been turned. For the first time, people had seen the great emperor lose his cool under fire, and feelings spread there. A feeling spread that he was on the way down. As Talleyrand later said, "This is the beginning of the end."
Yes.
Interpretation. This was indeed the beginning of the end. Waterloo was still 6 years ahead, but Napoleon was on a slow descent to defeat, crystallizing in 1812 with his disastrous invasion of Russia. Talleyrand was the first to see the signs of his decline, especially in the irrational war with Spain. Sometime in 1808, the minister decided that for the future peace of Europe, Napoleon had to go, and so he conspired with Fouché. It is possible that the conspiracy was never anything more than a ploy, a device to push Napoleon over the edge, for it is hard to believe that two of the most practical men in history would only go halfway with their plotting. They may have been only stirring the waters, trying to goad Napoleon into a misstep. And indeed, what they had... They may have only been stirring the waters, trying to goad Napoleon into a misstep, and indeed, what they got was the tantrum that laid out his loss of control for all to see. In fact, Napoleon's soon famous blow-up that afternoon had profoundly negative effects on his public image.
So here comes like historical horoscope here. The Tyre is presented as a turning point towards Napoleon's fall. Waterloo 6 years later. 6 years. And Greene is speculating over here a lot that the conspiracy may only have been a bait intended to provoke a public mistake. A dramatic scene occurs in 1809, and then Napoleon falls years later, 6 years later, more than half a decade later. Therefore, the scene, quote-unquote, heralded the fall. That's post-hoc casual storytelling. Between January 1809 and Waterloo in June 1815 sit the Fifth Coalition, Wagram dynastic marriage, the Continental System, the invasion of Russia, the Sixth Coalition, the abdication of 1814, Elba, and the 100 Days. You do not get to compress 6 years of military, diplomatic, logistical, economic, and political causes into one tantrum because it makes a tidy chapter ending. The claim may be defensible in a modest symbolic sense. Contemporaries could have interpreted the outburst as evidence of strain, and reputational moments matter. But, quote, a page had been turned, unquote, and the, quote, the beginning of the end, unquote, are effective narrative devices, not demonstrated casual findings. Then Greene goes on to speculate, they are reading Greene, and I don't know if they question it or not at all. Then Greene goes on to speculate that the conspiracy may never have been more than a ploy to bait Napoleon. And that's presented without any evidence, and actually cuts through the historical accounts describing a substantive conspiracy. Quote, "It is hard to believe practical men would plot halfway," unquote. That's not evidence. That's an argument from incredulity. You can discuss the confrontation that Napoleon and Talleyrand had as a reputational episode, but it cannot bear the causal weight of that the Greene is trying to assign to it. Historical sources describe a real Talleyrand-Foch conspiracy, not merely an established baiting exercise. So the errors and fallacies and other qualifications that are happening here are post hoc ergo propter hoc. Because one event preceded another, the first is implied to have caused or heralded the second without demonstrating the causal link. Single cause fallacy, a multi-causal outcome, is reduced to one preferred explanation. Hindsight bias, after knowing the eventual outcome, early events are made to look like obvious signs that the result was already unfolding. Argument from incredulity, we already discussed that. Because the speaker finds an alternative explanation difficult to believe, it is treated as unlikely or false without supporting evidence. Unfalsifiable counterfactual speculation. A hypothetical hidden plan is proposed in a form that cannot be tested without the available record. 6 years of history cannot be compressed into just one tantrum. That's how I would say to Greene's whole interpretation of this thing. But let's see if I don't know what they go on to do. Do they just keep on reading it? Do they interpret it? Or I don't know what they're trying to do further.
This is the problem with the angry response. At first, it may strike fear and terror, but only in some. And as the days pass and the storm clears, other responses emerge: embarrassment and uneasiness about the shouter's capacity for going out of control, and resentment for what has been said. Losing your temper, you only make unfair and exaggerated accusations. A few such tirades, and people are counting the days until you are gone.
I'm going to speed it up a bit because he's too slow. He's reading too slow. Let me just see. Okay.
In the face of a conspiracy against him, a conspiracy between his two most important ministers, Napoleon certainly had a right to feel angry and anxious, but by responding so angrily and so publicly, he had only demonstrated his frustration. To show your frustration is to show that you have lost your power to shape events. It is the helpless action of a child who resorts to hysterical fits to get his way. The powerful never reveal this kind of weakness. There were a number of things Napoleon could have done in this situation. He could have thought about the fact that two eminently sensible men had reason to turn against him, and could have listened and learned from them. He could have tried to win them back. He could have tried to win them back to him. He could even have gotten rid of them, making their imprisonment or death an ominous display of his power. No tirades, no childish fits, no embarrassing after effects, just a quiet and definitive severing of ties. Remember, tantrums neither intimidate nor inspire loyalty. They only create doubt and uneasiness about your power, exposing your weakness. These stormy eruptions often herald a fall. These stormy interruptions often herald a fall.
Damn.
So over here, it says, quote unquote, the powerful never reveal this weakness, unquote. And the text is calling expression of public frustration childish and says that Napoleon could instead have won back his ministers, or imprisoned them, or killed them as a quiet display of power. This passage, according to me, is exposing the moral emptiness of the framework. The objection is not that Napoleon might imprison or kill political opponents. The objection is that he did it noisily. Apparently, tyranny becomes sophisticated when delivered in a calm indoor voice for some reason. Quote unquote, the powerful never reveal weaknesses is also plainly false. Powerful people do display grief, anger, uncertainty, apology, vulnerability, and frustration all the time. Sometimes disclosure weakens them, sometimes it builds trust or creates urgency. Quote unquote, never is doing no intellectual work here. It is just branding, that's what it's doing. And the text contrast is grotesque. Childish tirade is bad, quiet imprisonment or death is clean and effective. That is ethical substitution, that's what's happening here. It swaps the moral question, was coercion, imprisonment, or killing justified, for a public relations question. Did the leader look composed? The leader look composed, sorry. This is not a guide to wisdom. It's a guide to preserving dominance in optics. That's what's happening here. But the topic of the live stream is, if we look here, stir the waters, how anger becomes a power trap. Doesn't make sense at all to me. So the errors and fallacies and qualifications that are happening here are: might makes right framing. The ability of a powerful person to impose consequences is treated as evidence that the conduct is strategically or morally justified. Outcome bias. The decision is just as wise because the desired outcome occurred rather than by the information, ethics, and alternatives available at the time. Descriptive to normative slide. This happens a lot. A claim that a tactic can influence people is allowed to become a recommendation that the tactic should be used. The ethics are not questioned of that tactic at all. False equivalence. Emotional expression is treated as worse than calculated coercion. This is just absolutism. Even if you're being cruel quietly, you're still being cruel. God.
And it's true. I've seen a lot of people lose their cool in situations where they don't have to, and it never ended well.
No, I think we see a lot of it. You know, I think it's very common. I mean, it's hard not to be reactionary in some situations, and I understand that. Well, when you think about it, it's probably not the best idea to show your cards. I mean, we've had other laws that we went over about keeping our cards close to our vest. Not actually letting them see where you're coming from all the time. All of these things, and it all kind of plays into this one. I mean, we take these laws chapter by chapter in order. It just, sometimes they just seem to cover more than one. Like this one, even though it sounds it's just about anger or not being in control or having emotional response. It really covers quite a few of the other ones too, or
like
it's very consistent with them, or could be paired up with them.
Like which one? Tell us.
At least the way that I'm remembering several of the other chapters in regards to not letting everybody know exactly where you're coming from when there's a disagreement. Sometimes it's better not to engage. You got to pick your battles.
You're just repeating yourself. You're not saying anything new according to me here. But in the context, you're repeating the same thing, but in the context which you're repeating it now just totally changes the whole thing, isn't it? I'll explain it how.
Especially if you've got a large endeavor in front of you, a goal, a plan, something you're trying to accomplish, because it can take you off track. It can diminish your power in achieving your goal. It can limit your opportunities with others.
It can, but it can also go the opposite way.
I mean,
how do you think women's suffrage became successful? How do you think women's rights came into, into being added into the American Constitution and into the constitutions around the world? Do you think it just happened like, by being calm and by being, rational looking? No, there were riots. Women lost their lives. There was violence. How do you think segregation ended? How do you think this inequality between the black communities and the white communities ended in America and they got equal rights? How did that happen? Did that happen peacefully? No. It happened with anger, when people were angry and they expressed their anger. So this whole thing is so bullshit.
Absolutely.
Even
in workplaces, if you think that someone is not being honest with you, or you are allowed to be angry and passionate, you can be. Do you think I shouldn't be angry if I said that a process should be followed and it was not followed and then someone got injured? I shouldn't be angry about that? Yes, of course I will be angry about that. Especially when I repeat something again and again. Do not do this, we need to do this, before someone gets hurt. And then someone gets hurt. I have every right to be angry that my recommendations were not accepted.
Your example as a transgression, of course, it would limit Napoleon's ability to convince others of things. Some people would have less trust in his sound judgment. I mean, I don't recall reading a lot about his tirades. I don't know,
So how do you know that? What effect that this outburst had on everyone around him, if you haven't read about it?
But I have read a lot about Talleyrand just ruling the room.
Exactly.
So it's not.
You read about Talleyrand and you didn't read like how his relationship was with Napoleon, or in context of Napoleon. Oh, okay.
Surprising in that situation who came out ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, welcome.
Who came out ahead? Hold on. If we read it, Talleyrand resigned, and Napoleon denounced Talleyrand in 1809. That was a confrontation, if I'm not wrong. And Talleyrand then lived in retirement in 1814. Like, again, you are just putting the cart in front of the horse. And what we talked about is this fallacy that you were making, outcome bias. The decision is judged as wise because the desired outcome occurred rather than by the information ethics and the alternatives available at the time. Like, come on, guys. And also hindsight bias. After knowing the eventual outcome, earlier events are made to look like obvious signs that the result was already unfolding. Come on. So McGregor over here, he says that he has seen many people lose their cool and quote unquote it never ends well. And then Claire discusses not showing one's cards and picking their battles. I've seen it as an anecdote. It never ends well is a universal conclusion. The gap between these two statements is where the evidence should be, which we don't get any. For example, which people, how many, what counts as losing their cool? What counts as ending well or not ending well? Did anger cause the outcome, or did underlying conflict caused both the anger and the outcome? Were the cases where anger produced a boundary, apology, concession, investigation, or reform? Personal experience can generate some sort of like hypothesis. It cannot produce an always rule or a never rule. It cannot produce a universal rule. Then there's Claire's narrower point: do not reveal every thought impulsively and choose battle strategically. That sounds reasonable if you listen to it independently of what they, without the context of what they have on their screen and what they're reading. But secrecy is not inherently wise either. Especially in my fields, in safety, compliance, and safeguarding and workplace conduct, withholding concerns can be irresponsible. The proper question is not, quote unquote, whether does disclosure surrender power, unquote. It is, quote, what response best protects people, evidence, fairness, and the legitimate objective, unquote. That's the question. But I guess this whole thing just went right over your head, Claire, because you don't know what, you don't get it. You're too shallow. Your thinking is shallow. And I'm afraid McCracker's thinking is also very shallow. Do you think if I don't tell my national team what's going on the ground, like what are the main hazards and risks on the ground, that I'm not like I'm not showing weakness? I'm showing weakness, or I'm showing surrender? No. Even though it might look like that my site is not doing well, or the sites under me are not doing well, it's actually going up the higher chain and telling them, listen, this is what is happening. We need more help and resources than we have on the site itself. You need to come in and provide those resources that higher management can provide. So you have to think about that. So errors and fallacies and other qualifications, again, anecdotal evidence. Personal observations are treated as sufficient proof of a general rule without a defined sample or comparison group. Hasty generalization, a limited set of experiences is expanded into a broad conclusion about people generally. Undefined outcome measure, the speakers say the conduct did not, quote unquote, end well, without specifying the criterion, time frame, or comparison. Power-centric framing, success is reduced to maintaining leverage. You know what is success for me at my workplace? Making sure all the staff that works with me, they go home safely, without any injuries, not even a scratch. That's what success is for me. I don't want to maintain any leverage. Multiple anecdotes don't make a rule. That's not how it happens. All right, we have been live for more than an hour. I think we'll take a break and then we will come back again. And hopefully, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish all of it today. Hopefully I can. Nine Jester saying that inequality is over in America is a very powerful misstatement. I'm not saying that it's over, but you know that there was segregation first, right? I'm saying that coming from that past to even to today, it just didn't take, being nice. There was expression of anger to even come to this point in society. That's what I'm saying. That in order to achieve that constitutional equality, like in constitutional terms, also, it took anger. So I'm sorry if it came across as a misstatement. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to say that there's no inequality today. There is still inequality. Of course there is. I'm just saying that we have come a long way from what was there in the past. We're trying to reduce the gap. And that gap wasn't just reduced because of, being polite or being calm and composed. No, it was when people expressed anger. That's how they got that. So I really hope I don't come across as that. I'm not saying that there's no inequality in today's world or in today's American society. There is still inequality. Yes, there is. Okay, we have been live for an hour. Let's just take a quick break and then I'll be back. I need to get some more water, get some more coffee, and and then we will continue. I think so. This might go into part 2, but who cares? We'll do another part next week. All right. Are we back? Testing? Yeah, seems to be working. Okay. We are back. All right. Hello, Sable Eagle. I am back. All right, continuing. 28:15. I think so. I might go for another hour, hour and a half. Maximum. Yeah, hour, hour and a half, because it's already, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Stephen, we were reading when you came in. It's good to see you. And Amber, you too. I just see. Amber says, anger is a weapon only to one's enemy. Exactly. As soon as you express anger, you are handing over power to the other side. Absolutely. Don't we observe this same behavior right now?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
You don't mean right now with like me and Wrecker, because like we very rarely argue. And if we do, it's kind of, like sibling way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like poking at each other, like just having a go. Yeah. I don't know.
I believe it was what's his name? George Crabbe that said
Yes.
Was it Crabbe or Crabe? I can't remember. But he said something like, anger makes us strong, blind, and impatient, and it leads us wrong. The strength is quickly lost. We feel the error long.
Wow. Yes, I would agree with that. I mean,
I could be wrong though. I may be wrong. I may be misquoting him, so don't quote me.
At least it's a.
Are you wrong? Do you accept that? Even if you're misquoting, do you accept that quote, that situation as a quote, or you might be wrong at the quote? What is it? Can you be more distinct? I don't understand where you stand on this. Claire, she has made her position clear, very, very clear.
General ideas. I mean,
Argument from poetry, is that a new informal fallacy? So this is argument from authority. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to use borrowed authority. That's what they're doing.
The general gist of it.
That's the fallacy.
I'm not going to be a pedant and hold you to that one, although I'm sure someone will, but it ain't going to be me.
Oh, is it me? Is that what you're talking about? Claire? Oh, I'm sure someone will. I don't care if you misquoted someone. I care that you're trying to borrow their authority and trying to impose something. That's what it is. You're trying to borrow their authority and you're trying to say whatever they said is universal, when it might not be. You just pick shit, like isolated stuff, and just smack a dab in the middle, and you don't do any explanation. You don't add anything to it, and it's just borrowed authority. That's the fallacy here. And you don't even do it correctly. That's the thing. That's what I'm more pedantic about.
But I get the general idea of that. I do, and
You
I
don't.
kind of go along with you. When you're expressing your anger like that, you feel strong. Other people will be intimidated and maybe even fearful. But it's temporary.
Or they might get motivated. The absolute baka.
Absolutely.
There is no lasting good result from that. You may get a temporary bump, right?
Actually, I do know one. The Dalai Lama did. Let me see if I remember this one properly.
It's not Dalai Lama. It's Dalai Lama. Dalai, not Dalai Lama. But I'm not going to go after his pronunciation that much.
I do remember a quote from the Dalai Lama saying something like, "When we are angry, we are blind to reality. Anger may bring us temporary bursts of energy, but that energy is blind." And that is dangerous, because you never want energy directed blindly. It's like a lightning storm. It'll strike blindly. It will strike anywhere. It will strike everywhere.
Right. And no doubt it's powerful.
Mhm.
No doubt it's going to actually do something, but it's not going to be within your control. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay, I get that. I get what you're trying to say there. I do.
Mm.
And I think that also is something Greene is expressing.
So, someone in the chat said that anger is a weapon to only to one's enemy. George Crabbe and Dalai Lama's lines are discussed. Claire says anger has no lasting good result. The speakers later concede anger has power, even though temporary. I would just keep on bringing up the suffrage at this point. Women were angry that they didn't have equal rights. How do you think that suffrage came into being? That was anger. I would not agree with Dalai Lama, actually, over here. Focused anger can be focused. It can be channeled for the right causes. It's not always blind. And that's what my problem is with this whole narrative over here. That anger is considered something that makes you weak or, yeah, vulnerable, sure, but weak or unreasonable. So, yeah, the quotation checking here is better than elsewhere. McCracker is hedging on the George Crabbe attribution, and the wording is almost close to the genuine passage. What is in my foot? Okay, go away. The Dalai Lama's discussion of anger is providing blind, unreliable energy is also real. I don't agree with it. But a quotation is an illustration. It's not a controlled study. A poet and a religious leader can offer insight without establishing that anger, quote unquote, has no lasting good result. The stronger correction is not that anger is secretly always good. No, that's not what the correction is. It's that anger is information and activation. It can signal a violated standard and energize action. It becomes harmful when intensity, expression, duration, or chosen behavior is disproportionate or uncontrolled. The lightning metaphor that they use, that's also very oversimplified. Anger is not necessarily undirected. People can experience anger and deliberately channel it into reporting, organizing, boundary setting, advocacy, or careful argument. And this is where, though, as I said, the whole stream's conceptual error is. It's confusing three separate variables: feeling anger, expressing anger, and active impulsively or aggressively. These three are not the same things. Yeah, George Crabbe passage, yeah, that's correctly quoted. And Dalai Lama has, yes, described anger's energy as blind and unreliable. Neither is establishing an empirical universe. Psychological research actually finds that anger can sometimes increase the goal pursuit and affect negotiation outcomes. I've already shown my references for that. They're still here. Like, still here. There are a couple more too. Well, I think so. The ones I've already produced are more than enough. So the errors and fallacies, like Sable Eagle said, that they're saying argument from poetry, that's actually appeal to authority and aphorism. A memorable quotation is treated as proof, even though an aphorism can illustrate an idea without validating it. Equivocation, anger, rage, aggression, and impulsivity are treated as interchangeable. Again, there are three variables: feeling the anger, expressing the anger, active impulsively or aggressively. Three different things, not the same thing. Overgeneralization from metaphor. A vivid image is allowed to carry a universal psychological conclusion that the evidence does not establish. Just because someone is feeling anger does not mean that they're going to act recklessly. That's not how it goes. Not always. Moving on, 3239. Let's see. Let's go with 3239.
It would help if I had it up, right? No, there it is. Look at that, I did. So, observance of the law. By the late 1920s, Haile Selassie had nearly achieved his goal of assuming total control over Ethiopia, a country he felt needed strong and unified leadership. As regent to the Empress Saditu, stepdaughter of the late queen and heir to the throne, Selassie had spent several years weakening the power of Ethiopia's various warlords. Now, only one real obstacle stood in his way: the Empress and her husband, Ras Gutsa. Selassie knew the royal couple hated him and wanted to get rid of him. So to cut short their plotting, he made Gutsa the governor of the northern province of Begemeter, forcing him to leave the capital where the Empress lived. For several years, Gutsa played the loyal administrator, but Selassie did not trust him. He knew that Gutsa and the Empress were plotting revenge. As time passed and Gutsa made no move, the chances of a plot only increased. Selassie knew what he had to do: draw Gutsa out, get under his skin, and push him into action before he was ready. For several years, a northern tribe, the Azubi Gaius, had been in virtual rebellion against the throne, robbing and pillaging local villages and refusing to pay taxes. Selassie had done nothing to stop them, letting them grow stronger. Finally, in 1929, he ordered Ras Gutsa to lead an army against these disobedient tribesmen. Gutsa agreed, but inwardly he seethed. He had no grudge against the Azubigayas, and the demand that he fight them hurt his pride. He could not disobey the order, but as he worked to put together an army, he began to spread an ugly rumor that Selassie was in cahoots with the Pope and planned to convert the country to Roman Catholicism and make it a colony of Italy. Gutsa's army swelled. In some of the tribes from which its soldiers came secretly agreed to fight Selassie. In March of 1930, an enormous force of 35,000 men began to march, not on the Azubi Gaius, but south, toward the capital of Addis Ababa. Made confident by his growing strength, Gutsa now openly led a holy war to depose Selassie and put the country back in the hands of true Christians. He did not see the trap that had been laid for him. Before Selassie had ordered Gutsa to fight the Azubigayas, he had secured the support of the Ethiopian church. And before the revolt got underway, he had bribed several of Gutsa's key allies not to show up for the battle. As the rebel army marched south, airplanes flew overhead, dropping leaflets announcing that the highest church officials had recognized Selassie as the true Christian leader of Ethiopia, and that they had excommunicated Gutsa for fomenting a civil war. These leaflets severely blunted the emotions behind the Holy Crusade, and as a battle loomed and the support that Gutsa's allies had promised him failed to show up, soldiers began to flee or defect. When the battle came, the rebel army quickly collapsed. Refusing to surrender, Ras Gutsa was killed in the fighting. The Empress, distraught over her husband's death, died a few days later. On April 30th, Selassie issued a formal proclamation announcing his new title, Emperor of Ethiopia.
So this is where what's happening is that political violence turns into a self-help case study. The broad historical skeleton, it's real. Ras Gutsa Wele rebelled. Psychological warfare and church authority were used against him. His forces were defeated at Anchem on 31st March 1930. He was killed. His empress died 2 days later. Tafari Makonnen became emperor and was crowned Haile Selassie later that year. But several details they do need care. First, the transcript presents the empress dying because she was distraught over her husband's death. That is not settled fact. That is not a settled fact. Accounts vary, and illness is an important alternative explanation. Presenting grief as the established cause turns disputed history into its melodrama. That's what it turns into. Second, I saw in the transcript that it says that on 30th April, Selassie issued a proclamation announcing his new title and then treats that as the end point. His formal coronation as an emperor was on 2nd of November 1930, not in 30th April. The Queen of Argentina. Third, the language of quote-unquote good use and success erases the moral and political stakes. You can see here in the transcript they say, I think it was a success that was success Greene's interpretation. Hold on, let's have a look.
I'd say that was a good use of the law.
I think that was success.
That was success. Greene's interpretation.
So,
Haile Selassie always saw several moves ahead. He knew that if he let...
Okay, so again, good use and success erases the moral and political stakes here. A civil conflict was maneuvered, soldiers died, an opponent was killed, and central power was consolidated. You may analyze strategic effectiveness, but effectiveness is not identical to goodness. The story also comes from a ruler-centered source tradition. The people treated as pieces on the board, they disappear. Who bore the cost? Which claims are Selassie's retrospective self-presentation? What alternative interpretations do historians offer? None of that survives, Greene's format. Nothing. So I tried to fact check, and I found that. Hi, Victoria, how you doing? Ooh, truck driving. Yeah, that's not easy. Good on you. So Oxford history describes Ras Guksa's resentment and rebellion, but also warns that Haile Selassie is a complex figure who cannot be reduced to a single category. The empress died on 2nd of April 1930, 2 days after the battle. Accounts of her cause of death vary. Haile Selassie's formal coronation occurred on the 2nd of November 1930. Now the error, fallacies, and other stuff. Outcome bias. He secured power, therefore the maneuver was wise. Moral erasure. Casualties become evidence of strategic brilliance. Hero narrative, great man history, large political and military outcomes are explained as though the will and brilliance of one leader, while institutions, opponents, and structural conditions disappear. Causal overstatement, disputed the cause of the empress's death. Teleology, events are narrated as naturally leading to Selassie's rise. A tyrant's consolidation is not a communication success story. Just saying. These guys, they're so simplistic. So simplistic. Nothing about, let's fact check things. Nothing. Let's look into it more than just taking the word of that person, and let's introspect a little more than what the author is trying to present here. Nothing. Oh, break time. Oh, you're in the middle of a move. Okay. And you're having a break time. Cool. All right, let's listen to this further and see what they have for us.
Let Ras Gutsa decide the time and place of the revolt. The danger would be much greater than if he forced Gutsa to act on Selassie's terms. So he goaded him into rebellion by offending his manly pride, asking him to fight people he had no quarrel with on behalf of a man he hated. Thinking everything out ahead, Selassie made sure that Gutsa's rebellion would come to nothing, and that he could use it to do away with his last two enemies. This is the essence of the law. When the waters are still, your opponents have the time and space to plot actions that they will initiate and control. So stir those waters. Force the fish to the surface. Get them to act before they are ready. Steal the initiative. The best way to do this is to play on uncontrollable emotions. Pride, vanity, love, hate. Once the water is stirred up, the little fish cannot help but rise to the bait. The angrier they become, the less control they have. And finally, they are caught in the whirlpool you have made, and they drown.
Mm-hmm.
Game. Well, you picked good examples, I think, this time.
I do agree.
Yep.
So, Claire and her co-host McGregor, they are endorsing Greene's interpretation: provoke pride, force the opponent to act early, steal the initiative, and make the quote-unquote little fish drown. It worked is not a complete evaluation. A strategy can be effective, unethical, reckless, illegal, destructive, or impossible to generalize. Claire and McGregor, they never state the criteria beyond victory. Oh, it worked, that's it. No, they don't. Hi, Victoria. I don't think so. They know what the words mean in the context. I don't think so. They just read it and they go, yeah, I agree. Damn, good. Blah, 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 blah. That's it. That's all they have. They don't look into it any deeper. They're very surface level and very simplistic in what they do with this. It's like just make an audiobook out of this of you reading the chapters. That's it, because you're not adding anything. They're not adding anything good or anything worth introspecting. So yeah, so they never state the criteria beyond victory. And it's a classic outcome bias. A favorable result retroactively makes the decision good. But it also creates a dangerous lesson for everyday relationships. A boundary is not quote-unquote stirring the waters. A neutral accountability question is not quote-unquote bait. Direct communication is not a covert operation. And by forcing healthy interpersonal tools into Greene's predator-prey metaphor, they are encouraging viewers to interpret ordinary conflict as hunting. They see enemies everywhere. The correct lesson from the history is much narrower. Controlling timing and preparation can matter in a conflict. The ethical everyday lesson is make expectations explicit. Preserve the evidence and do not allow avoidable urgency to dictate a high-stakes response. That's the everyday ethical lesson. None of this requires manufacturing emotional vulnerability in another person. Victoria from the live chat, I've read The Art of War several times. What the fuck are they trying to do? They don't sound like they even understand what it means. No, they're reading the 48 Laws of Power. That's what they're reading. That's what the book's name is. The 48 Laws of Power. And the chapter is chapter 39, Stir the Waters, How the Anger Becomes a Power Trap. And they're trying to, one, they don't correct any misinformation or any facts that the author has gotten wrong. Historical facts, actually. And then they just take the author's word for it, and then they're just reading it. That's it. That's all they're doing it. They're not adding anything to it. And they're trying to apply it to day-to-day things, like workplace, friendships, relationships. And I'm like, what are you trying to do here? Yeah, Victoria, I also don't claim to understand all of it. I don't. I'm just going chapter by chapter like they are going. Yeah, your point still stands, Victoria. That's fine. Your point absolutely still stands. So, moving on. The errors and fallacies. Outcome bias, obviously, that's quite evident. The decision is judged as wise because the desired outcome occurred rather than by the information, ethics, and alternatives available at the time. Is ought fallacy. Strategic effectiveness becomes moral approval. Faulty analogy. Civil war is mapped into family, work, and dating. Dehumanizing metaphor. People are fish, bait, and prey. Like, come on, guys. Come on. Just because something is effective, it doesn't mean it was ethical. I don't know if do you care if whatever you're doing in relationships is ethical or not? Do you care? Claire McGregor, do you? Moving on, 3901. Let's go.
Ember says, on the other hand, anger is one of the very few emotions that can cut through despair and numbness. True. What's that they say? There's no doubt you're feeling it. Like, when you're angry, there's no doubt you're feeling it. Like, that resonates with me, Ember. Like, yeah. See, that's why you always go with good old righteous wrath. Anger is playtime. Wrath is business. Okay, Sin. I hear you, Sin. Anger was the emotion that I used for power when I was undiagnosed but struggling with health issues. You know what, Stephen? There's great power in it. There is. There's
So now
no doubt
anger
about
is
that.
okay?
It's just who has the power, right?
But you were saying that being angry gives your opponents the power always. So if that person was angry, were they giving their undiagnosed illness the power? I thought that's what you would say with your interpretation, but now your interpretation has changed. When you have said it's always like that, that's what your thing was. It was a universal fact that it's giving power to your opponent. So what happened now? What changed? Oh, it's someone in your live chat that you want to that you want to agree with. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. There's a.
Yep.
Let me see if I can word this properly. There is a certain power to love, and there is a certain power to hate. Some people will say they are different in respects, but if you can get...
Being angry and being hateful are two different things. They can result in same things, or they can come from same things. But being angry and hateful, if I'm not wrong, being angry doesn't mean that you're hating someone. I just... Hold on, give me a sec. These people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, come on, dude. Seriously. Let me reheat my coffee quickly, and then we'll start. So, yeah, like, anger and hate can overlap, but they're not the same thing. Anger is primarily an emotion and a response to feeling wronged or threatened or frustrated or disrespected or treated unfairly. You can be intensely angry with someone and you still care. Like, you can be angry with someone you still care about or you still respect or want good things for. Anger can be temporary and directed at a particular action. Like, for example, I'm furious at what you did. Hate is usually broader and more enduring. It tends to involve a strong negative attitude towards the person or group themselves, rather than merely their behavior. It may involve contempt, disgust, hostility, wishing them harm or failure, or seeing them as fundamentally bad or unworthy. Yeah, they're just the equivocation. They're just McGregor is slipping into equivocation here. He's equivocating hate and anger. That's not how it works. All right, quickly moving
Get
on.
someone to love, to hate something, you will always blind them, every single time.
Well, are they not both great motivators? They actually motivate people to action, to feel.
Oh yeah.
To
And that's where the power lies, because if you can get someone to feel both of them at the same time.
Careful. The record, you sounded like a master manipulator. Like.
Oh, I thought this is what the book was about.
It is. It is.
They just sit there and just repeat it and just say generic shit. That's all they do.
It is. Yes. But there's something to be said by learning the lessons too well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all just aside.
Yeah. What the thing is that I think the most important thing is to be conscious of it. If you're conscious.
So the at this point, they're now, as I said before, they're contradicting their own absolutism. That's what they're doing now. Someone in the chat noted that anger can cut through despair and numbness. Claire agrees with it. And then they discuss quote-unquote righteous wrath, anger as power, and love and hate as motivators. McGregor, as we heard, said, love or hate will always quote-unquote blind a person every single time. Are you serious? Love always blinds people? What are you talking about? Why are you making this so absolute and and universal? That love or hate will always blind a person. I don't get it. This is now the internal contradiction we have reached here now. Minutes earlier, they were saying that anger was strategically counterproductive and had no lasting good result. Now anger can cut through despair, provide power, and motivate. Like I was saying in the beginning. The concession is correct, but then it means that the original universal law or the rule they made, or the absolute rule they made, that was wrong. They don't acknowledge that for some reason. And that tells me they just agree with whoever, whatever someone says in the moment and then just move on without realizing that they just contradicted with their previous points. McGregor goes on to replace one absolute with another. Love or hate will always blind a person. Every single time. No. Strong attachment can bias judgment, but love also supports caregiving, sacrifice, attention, and long-term commitment. Hatred can distort judgment, but the effect is not mechanically identical in every person in every circumstance. Far out. Sable Eagle from the live chat seems to me two of them are only interested in messing people about to seem to win arguments, not in learning the truth or helping anyone else learn the truth. I agree. I agree with you on that. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. It's all about winning for them. Can you put the name of the text into chat? Because I want to check the rest of the context. Name of the text, or do you want the name of the stream? I can put the stream in the live chat. Here you go. Here you go. Sable Eagle from the live chat. If two people have differing opinions on the best way to rescue children on the school bus stuck in the middle of the river, they should figure out who's right, not to try to piss each other off. Exactly. I agree. These people just don't know what the frick they're talking about. Sorry, excuse me. It's absolutely ridiculous. They sit there and pretend they know what they're talking about. All right. Quickly moving on. So, as we saw that McGregor, he replaced one absolute with another. Love or hate will always blind a person. If you have the book. I think so they provide that. It's a Google Drive. Hold on, let me see if it works. The file is too large to preview. So they have a Google link here. I can give you that if you want. And it works. So, there you go. Copy. Let me see. Here you go. Give it a try and see if it works for you. It worked for me, so I was able to download it. So strong, as I said, hatred can distort judgment, but the effect is not mechanically identical in every person in every circumstance. And love and strong attachment can bias judgment, but love and attachment also support caregiving, sacrifice, attention, and long-term commitment. This is emotional essentialism. One motion is assigned one inevitable cognitive consequence. Claire's joke that McCracker sounds like a master manipulator, or someone sounds like a master manipulator, is more revealing, actually, than I think so she planned. McCracker responds that manipulation is what the book is about. Exactly. The stream is oscillating between presenting the material as a defensive guide and openly endorsing the deliberate elicitation of emotional reactions. They need to choose whether they are teaching self-regulation or they're teaching influence tactics. So the contradictions here are, the errors here are the contradiction. The later concession is incompatible with the earlier absolute unless the original claim is narrowed substantially. They don't do that. They don't acknowledge that. Nothing. Sweeping generalization. A broad conclusion is drawn without evidence covering the range of people or situations included in the claim. Essentialism. A temporary emotional state is treated as revealing a person's fixed nature rather than a context-dependent response. Mote and Bailey retreat from quote-unquote anger is always bad to quote-unquote uncontrolled anger can be bad, then return to broad claims again. Their own exception disproves their own rule, but they don't acknowledge that at all, because I don't think so they realize that, or they care about it. I don't think so. Sorry, my throat suddenly. Moving on.
Yeah, anyway, all jokes aside.
Yeah. Well, the
Anyways.
thing is that I think the most important thing is to be conscious of it. If you're conscious of what needs to be done to elicit whatever reaction, then you can make the conscious decision to either avoid it or follow it.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. Not giving your power away, taking that moment to decide what is in your best interest to move forward. Don't let them force you into doing something rashly, into an overreaction that you might regret, right? Like, keeping control just long enough to decide actually what is the best for you, to keep you on your path, to keep your power, to keep you moving forward. That's the twist that we were doing with this. That was the challenge you presented to me.
Yes.
Put this not from just, a power play of Greene's for moving ahead in business and accomplishing what you want, but how people could use this every day to protect.
So you want people to use this every day, but you are supporting using manipulation in everyday, in everyday things. Okay.
Take their own personal power, especially with the things that happen.
So hell with ethics. To hell with responsibility or accountability. Okay.
In a fast-paced world these days, everything done online, we're exposed to so much more. We're exposed to so much more manipulation, whether intentional or not, on a daily basis, on all sides of books.
Manipulation is intentional. What are you talking about?
And so, these laws, the challenge was to use the basis of Greene's books to interpret it, to interpret or extrapolate out the lesson that he was.
And you have not given us one bloody example. You've just talked generic shit. That's it.
Presenting.
That anyone can say. And then also you've gotten it wrong. So wrong. And I don't believe that so many people watch you. I just cannot believe it. That so many people watch this shit and they're like, oh yeah, this is good. I don't believe it. I think so there's some fuckery going on over here with the views and shit and comments here. Seriously, there's such generic comments. It's like, come on, guys. Like, yeah. Generic comments. It's just some fuckery going on. I don't believe that so many people watch this bullshit and they're like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
In a way that could be used simply by all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Humble wrecker.
Oh, I am the most humble. You will never meet. There is not a single person out there who is truly as humble as I am.
This humble guy came into my comment section, threw vitriol at me, told me I should be ashamed of myself and whatever, I'm doing a disservice to my education and stuff, and then ran away like a coward. This humble guy. He's humble, guys. He's very humble.
Yeah, but they're already planning to on-record you after we finish the 48 laws.
Oh,
We have
well.
to on-record. Like that's that. Okay.
I don't consent.
Would you please consent to reading the quote from Greene's book? What he chose to put there is the quote at the end of the examples.
I think I can do that. Let me, here we go. A sovereign should never launch an army out of anger. A leader should never start a war out of wrath. Sun Tzu, 4th century BC.
He's a favorite of yours. Art of War. Yeah. He's come up quite a bit in the 48 laws. Quite a bit. Okay. Here's the fun.
So McGregor says that if you don't know what elicits a reaction, you can consciously choose to avoid it or follow it. Claire then reframes this as choosing what is in your own interest. And then they read a line from Sun Tzu about not launching war from anger. Their safer point is metacognition, recognize what is happening and make conscious choice. That's good. But then to go ahead and say, know what needs to be done to elicit whatever reaction is not merely awareness. It describes behavioral manipulation. Whether it is defensible depends on the purpose, consent, proportionality, power imbalance, and foreseeable harm. But they don't talk about all this. They just generically sprinkle shit. Victoria from the live chat said they rip out of context and then use half-understood phrases as bullshit to bullshit out of their asses. Exactly. Just generic sprinkles all over the place. I bet you whatever I said here, it just went right over both of their heads. That's why they're not responding, because they don't know how to. They cannot process what I'm talking today. Asking a precise question that makes evasion difficult is legitimate accountability. Deliberately humiliating someone to produce an outburst is not. Both may elicit a reaction. So his phrase, McGregor's phrase, is morally empty to guide any conduct. And the quotation from Sun Tzu, it's authentic, broadly, in translation. But once again, an ancient military maxim is not evidence about ordinary psychology, day-to-day psychology. It's a military maxim. War, customer complaints, dating, boundaries, and workplace disagreements are not interchangeable domains. You assholes. Claire, McGregor, what are you doing? Also, if you note, why are you on my screen? Go away. Go away. I don't want you. Go away. So also, if you note, they're repeating the use of word they're repeating the word power a lot, as if someone's emotional autonomy and dominance are the same thing. Self-command is not domination. You can retain agency without seeking leverage over everyone else. The Sun Tzu passage is about a ruler not moving an army out of anger, appears in common translations in The Art of War. This is from The Art of War. It is philosophical and strategic counsel, not a psychological law. It's philosophical and strategic, not psychological. Claire, McGregor, fucking get your heads out of your asses, dudes. Yeah, Victoria, you're right. And it's also court politics set in a very particular political system. Exactly. And it's not like day-to-day shit. It's not comparable to day-to-day shit. They're trying to translate it to day-to-day shit, and they're just some things are not meant for that. Just saying. So the errors and fallacies and qualifications. Equivocation, as I said, awareness and manipulation are merged. Domain error, military strategy is generalized to intimate and workplace relationships. Appeal to authority, a quotation or respected figure is used in place of evidence establishing the claim being made. Power conflation, autonomy becomes dominance. Self-command, or preservation of self-autonomy is not control of other people. Sorry, preservation of autonomy is not control of other people. God, these people are so stupid. Oh my goodness. All right, moving on. Almost reaching the 1 hour mark. Not bad, eh?
Fun part. We delved into history with what Greene put forth as the examples. And so now the challenge was to try to find modern examples of these. And not just with the use of anger, because anger isn't the only thing that people try to trigger you with. It's not the only button. Can we agree?
Oh, absolutely. It's the easiest one, but
it is the easiest one. It is. But I don't think anyone in the chat or anyone watching would have any problem understanding that part, using anger as that trigger, right? So in putting together the modern examples, try to put like real life situations where it's not actually anger that is the trigger, but they're still trying to prompt you into some type of response, and what might be a better way to handle things, right? So with that being said,
so this is the point where the stream almost becomes useful, because the examples largely abandon Greene. What follows is not really stirring waters. It's assertiveness, documentation, clear boundaries, putting terms in writing, and refusing retaliatory behavior. So we'll see that. Their strongest examples will work because they stop treating the other person as prey, and they keep keep that distinction in mind. So we'll see what happens. Modern examples. So moving on quickly. 4556. 4556? Yeah, 4556, is it? Yeah, 4556. There we go.
So successful use, workplace. The defensive pressure question. A co-worker keeps Hey, my mouth was just having a seizure. Give it a second.
Okay. All right.
A co-worker keeps taking credit for group work, but is vague in meetings. Instead of accusing them, you calmly ask, "Can you walk us through which sections you completed and when?" The mild pressure may make them over-explain, contradict themselves, or reveal they cannot account for the work. Why it works? You do not manufacture a personal attack. You create a moment of accountability and watch how they handle it. The reaction may tell the room more than an accusation would. Oh wait, you doing the failure version?
No, you read the whole
No,
slide.
I am, yeah. The whole slide. The failure version. You publicly embarrass them. Use sarcasm or bait them into an outburst. They may gain sympathy. HR may see you as the aggressor, and the actual work issue gets buried under interpersonal.
So instead of baiting them into an outburst, it's more about working towards accountability, isn't it? So I don't get it. Where's this Greene's whole thing matters here? Let's see what they try to say here.
Conflict. Yes.
I think that's a good example there. You know, how you can bait someone into revealing the agenda, revealing the facts without major confrontation. Now, if you're going to use it in the fail version, you would actually just attack, right?
Mhm.
And you would trigger them, but you're going to
Well,
come out looking bad. You might get them to say something to be used against them or to give out some information, but at the same time, you lose power by losing credibility. Losing, being seen as, like they said, the aggressor. If it's HR, it's a workplace, so they're going to be looking at you like you're the problem too.
Mhm.
Like nobody's really going to come out ahead there.
And, well, let's be fair. The failure version is always the easiest one to pick. I mean, isn't it? It is very normal for the first thing anyone to do when someone's taking all the credit or something like that is to pipe up and try and embarrass them or try and humiliate them some way because
you're angry. Because you feel disrespected and angered and everything, but it's not exactly the best plan forward, right?
Yeah, because and not only that, but it's the easiest option to take. It is how we're wired. We're wired to take the easiest option, to do it in a successful way, using, or in a constructive way, a way that actually puts the onus back on the person. It requires a lot of forethought, and it requires a lot of in a way, it requires being able to look further than 15 minutes into the future, and that's not easy for anyone.
It's not.
It's
doesn't
not,
come naturally.
easy for you both.
They say one of the hardest.
So they're talking about an example, right? A co-worker takes credit for group work. The suggested response is to ask calmly which sections they completed and when. The failed response is a public embarrassment or baiting an outburst. It's a solid practical example, but there's one important correction that it requires. Asking, quote unquote, could you walk us through the sections you completed and when, is useful when it requests verifiable information. It does not work because the person's emotional reaction exposes guilt. It works because the answer can be compared with drafts, version history, assigned actions, emails, meeting notes, and deliverables. Their phrase, the quote, the reaction may tell the room more than an accusation would, unquote, reintroduces the demeanour fallacy. A falsely accused person may become angry. A practiced credit thief may remain perfectly calm. The evidence is the work record, not how photogenic the response looks. And that's where they fail. In a professional environment, a stronger approach would be to clarify roles prospectively, record action owners and deadlines, preserve version history, correct attribution promptly and neutrally, raise repeated conduct privately with the responsible manager, focus on the work impact, not amateur personality diagnosis. Yeah, access log. Yeah, that was a nothing burger. Claire is right that sarcasm and public humiliation can move attention from the work issue to interpersonal conduct. But HR does not automatically see the complaint as quote unquote the complainant as quote unquote the aggressor. They may not immediately see that or not automatically see that. That again that depends on the facts, policy, proportionality, and pattern. So again, errors. Mostly it's sound advice, practical recommendation is useful, but it should be separated from claim that another person's reaction diagnoses motive or guilt. Residual demeanour fallacy, reaction is treated as diagnostic. Overgeneralization about HR, one possible organizational reaction is presented as the human resources processes will reliably respond in that single way. False choice, neutral question versus humiliating attack, other formal escalation options exist. And that's why I think these both have never worked a day in their life. Because they don't know that. Receipts always will beat the reactions. Always. In the end. Moving on.
things is practicing to take the pause. Like in some of the books I read a lot of books in philosophy, psychology, all of these.
Yeah, sure you have. She had to brag about that. She had to brag. I've read a lot of books, guys, of philosophy and psychology, but she doesn't understand what anger is, what hatred is. That anger is not always blind. Love is not always blind. She does not understand any of that. Nothing. That angry can get you, can achieve, goals. That anger is not always wrong, or somehow, it's not wrong. Anger is not always wrong, or it's not an admission of defeat.
General self-help kind of stuff on an everyday basis. Learning to take the pause is one of the best things you can do for yourself, and it would apply here, because if you could take the pause, which means just not doing anything for that moment until you figure out what is the best thing moving forward. It doesn't mean walk away from the problem. It doesn't mean bury your head. It doesn't mean don't do anything ever. It just means take the pause. Don't take the bait. Take the pause. Whatever's going on, to take a moment. In today's fast-paced life that we all deal with, at least in my opinion, things seem to be faster and faster and faster. There's so much information coming at us at all times, with the internet, in the world getting smaller,
again,
because
generic
of it,
shit.
us being exposed to so much more and so rapidly. Okay, everybody needs to practice more taking the pause, whether it be taking that step aside from overexposure to the information for a little bit, to catch our breath. There's a reason they tell people, touch grass. And, when you feel that it's getting to you, whatever, being in control of that so that you're at your best is something we have to practice on a regular basis. It's not easy. It doesn't come naturally. We feel like we're missing something. We feel like maybe we're not up to the best, or we're not doing our best if we're not like right in it all the time. Not succumbing to those pressures is difficult. It's not something that is easy to do. And there's no way that I would be out here saying that it's just so easy, snap your fingers and just do that. None of it is easy, but it's worth practicing that pause.
Well, the biggest the thing about using about not taking that pause is that it works on one of the most difficult things for anyone in general, which is accountability. If you don't take that pause, you don't think about accountability. So you don't even think about whether or not you're taking accountability.
That's not true. Just because you didn't take pause doesn't mean that you can't take accountability, or you don't think about taking accountability. Not everyone functions or thinks the same. That is, again, it's like McGregor talks in such absolutes all the time. Both Claire and McGregor, they talk in these universal absolutes all the fucking time. I don't know. Do they not realize it? I don't get it. It's so stupid.
To take that pause requires you to actually stop and think, well, what is actually going to happen with this? Actually taking accountability for your actions within.
Again, taking a pause will not automatically produce accountability. No, that's not how it works. Again, the McGregor gets it wrong. Totally wrong.
Within what you're going to say or how you're going to treat a situation. No one likes accountability.
Yes, they do, but sometimes it's hard. I get what you mean.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't
no one likes accountability.
Say no one likes accountability. What I mean to say is no one likes to think about accountability when in those situations. Because when you're in those situations, you are often heated. You are often just wanting to act, and just wanting to act doesn't involve thinking.
Right. It's not.
So this happens a lot with McGregor, that he makes these and Claire also does that, but Claire doesn't get challenged. McGregor, he makes an absolute, a point with an absolute. He gets challenged and then he revised it revises it to make a reasonable condition, and then continue as though the original rhetoric force remains intact. He does that a lot. Cough, cough, Steve, cough, cough. Yeah, you're right, Athens. You're so right. So, how much left? A couple more.
It's not your first thought. It's not your first thought. Exactly. Because let's be honest, you're not really thinking clearly. This law is.
A person can pause and compose a better lie instead of thinking about accountability. And at the same time, a person who doesn't pause is always it's ingrained in their principles that they always are moving towards accountability. So this thing is so, I don't know why they just make it so black and white and they don't think about any other possibilities here. I don't get it. Yeah, Victoria, you're right. Also, depending on how much practice you have at thinking about the consequences, that thinking might happen faster than McCracker or Claire could. Exactly. They're just projecting. If we think about it, maybe they're projecting. It's
all about like acknowledging when you are responding this way, you're not thinking clearly. Correct? Like
exactly.
I do believe that's what Greene was trying to put out there. Like, and that under Greene's theory, that will be used against you. That will be purposely used against you. There will be people trying to get you to react that way, to use it against you for their own gain. That's the Greene angle on it.
Yes.
And so our angle is like, how do you prevent that? Like, how first by recognizing it, like recognizing what's triggering you, recognizing that you are triggered, recognizing your own responses to the situation immediately, and then whether or not you're able to step back for a second before you respond. Because sometimes there'll be situations where you really do need to address it right away.
Oh, 100%.
But still, you can take a pause to address it appropriately for you. And that's difficult. And I don't want to make it sound like that's easy. Like, and maybe for some people it is, but I would say for the majority, that it's not.
Where do you get this majority?
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next. We got so much on that one.
Yeah, let's quickly move on to next before people realize that I was talking out of my asshole. Claire advocates, she's advocating, I will repeat what I said in between, right? She's advocating taking a pause rather than avoiding the problem. McCracker links the pausing to accountability. Then, as he said, no one likes accountability, then he qualifies it when he gets pushback from Claire. That's the only time I think so Claire gave him a pushback. Pause is a good advice. It gives the nervous system time to settle and create space to decide rather than just discharge. But pausing, as I said before, does not automatically produce accountability. And I said before, a person can pause and compose a better lie, a more polished attack, or a more effective evasion. Accountability requires identifying one's contribution, acknowledging impact, correcting the record, repairing the harm where possible, and changing the behavior. Emotion regulation research distinguishes changing one's appraisal from suppressing visible expression. Reappraisal is generally associated with better interpersonal functioning than habitual suppression. A pause can facilitate reappraisal, but outward composure alone is not the proof of reflective accountability. Again, the fallacies, sweeping generalization. Pause is equated with accountability. Conceptual shortcut. Pause is equated with accountability. Sweeping generalization, then retreat. McCracker did that. No one likes accountability, but then he reduces, right? Then he qualifies it. Motte and Bailey pattern. A sweeping rule is repeatedly protected by retreating to the narrower claim that uncontrolled reactions can sometimes cause harm. Pauses, Claire, McCracker, pauses, they create opportunity. They don't create virtue. It's that simple. But I don't know why you don't get it. I just don't get it. Victoria from the live chat. Do they never have any concept of what happens after this or that action? Do they not do that. Granted, I'm working with one person, but it does seem interesting that they don't do that automatically. I don't get it. Like I think they just think that just because they can speak English, whatever comes out of their mouth makes sense. That's what I think. Steve, Claire, Erin, whatever her fucking thing is, Megan, Sean, Veda, down the rabbit hole, Southern Mutton, Renelle, they all think just because they can speak English, whatever comes out of their mouth makes sense. Simple as that. I think that's what this is. Hi, Intrigued. How you doing? Come on in. Come on in. I think so. This is your kind of stream. Moving on.
Now, the next one is successful use negotiation, the deadline test. A seller says, this offer is only good for the next hour. There are 5 other buyers. Instead of panicking, you say, I understand. I'm not comfortable rushing. Please send the other offers in writing, and I'll decide after reviewing the full terms. Why it works. You interrupt the other person's attempt to make you emotional and time pressure. Their response...
Again, they have now interchanged anger with being emotional. And being reactive to being emotional. What is going on here? Oh, okay.
Response can reveal whether the urgent deadline was genuine or a pressure tactic. And then the failure version. You counter with fake urgency. I have another seller ready to go right now. When you do not. If exposed, you lose credibility and destroy a deal that could have been resolved calmly. Like, if you try to match what they're doing, like, you could just ruin everything, But I thought this one was good because, like, this kind of stuff,
they just read it and just agree with it. That's it. There's no introspection there.
Relate to that, right? We all get under pressure of people trying to sell us something, somebody pushing us. We've had another law where they said that people pushing you to make a decision right away is never in your best interest. You got to question that right away. Why? If they why is time not on their side? If they can't adequately explain why it's so urgent, you had to decide immediately.
It can be that someone might not be able to explain that why it's urgent because they don't have the full information. They can still say, I don't have the full information, but that's what my boss told me. They can go with that. And sometimes, yeah, they do have the information and they can let you know why it's urgent. And sometimes it's under the law that they can't tell you why it's urgent. There can be so many reasons. This is so specific.
The friend pressuring you to choose sides or to make a decision about something right away without having all the information or looking at everything from both sides,
Oh, really? Like you did? Were you pressured to take sides with Steve? Was that what happened with you, Claire? Did you use your introspection there? Did you pause and think?
Salesman. Not letting you kick the tires, saying it's going to be gone tomorrow.
She just keeps repeating the same thing that the slide is saying. That's it.
I want to make sure I don't miss anything in comments before I move on. Sin had said the sinister part is you don't have any drawbacks. If the other party manages to pull through, you just ask an innocent question, no harm done, eh? Exactly, see? And nobody loses face. They can't pin it on you,
Again, it's not about accountability. It's not about ethics. It's about just optics.
Yeah?
Yes.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, there is sensible consumer hygiene here. Until they start using the word never. Fake scarcity and fake countdown timers are real manipulative practices. That is not questioned. Regulators specifically identify them as dark patterns. Asking for terms in writing, refusing to invent a competing offer, and being willing to walk away are good safeguards. But the real deadlines also exist. As I said, auctions close, flights fill, contracts expire, markets move, Stock is genuinely limited and another buyer may make a better offer. Urgency is a risk signal, not a proof of deception, and not always contrary to your interests. The test is evidence. What creates the deadline? Is it independently verifiable? What changes after the deadline? Are all material terms disclosed? Is the scarcity claim specific or supportable? Also, in some transactions, as I said before, a seller cannot ethically or legally send you other buyers' confidential offers. Ask for relative terms or evidence permitted by the process, not necessarily private third-party documents. Like, yeah, FTC and ACCC, they identify false countdown timers and false scarcity claims as manipulative practices. But the problem is falsity, not the mere existence of a deadline. So, again, fallacies and errors and stuff. Useful heuristic inflated into a universal. A sensible warning sign is presented as an exceptionless rule rather than one factor to evaluate with context. Binary framing, genuine opportunity versus manipulation, unstated legal confidentiality, and assumptions. The recommendation assumes information can be demanded or disclosed without addressing privacy, contract, or procedural limits. Urgency is a red flag, it's not a verdict. Ay. Well, we made it to almost 1 hour. Not bad, guys. Not bad. In 2.5 hours. Not bad. Yeah, the manipulation Steve was doing when he kept saying he had secret evidence. There was no urgency in there, but there was manipulation. But the urgency he presented was decide now whether you want to believe me or not, and not wait for the evidence to come out. That was the urgency he was creating with the secret evidence that no one saw. Okay, moving on. 5733.
Yay, friendship. Okay, successful use, friendships. The boundary test. A friend repeatedly cancels at the last minute, but insists they value the friendship. Rather than starting a fight, you calmly say, I've noticed your last 3 plans changed on the day. I'm happy to make plans when you know you're available, but I won't hold evenings open anymore. Why it works. This creates a productive discomfort without name-calling. Their reaction can clarify whether they will take responsibility, become defensive, or expect you to accept a one-sided arrangement. The failure version. You provoke jealousy by posting photos with other friends, cancel plans in retaliation, or make indirect posts online. That creates drama, not clarity, and it turns an avoidable issue into a loyalty contest.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can see how it's a better way to use the boundary test.
How?
To just prod, like, make your point, but you can do it without a hammer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And actually their reaction to it can tell you where they're really coming from about it.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Whether they actually are hearing you and have respect for the situation, and you can make your decision after that.
Exactly.
I mean, friends usually respect friends' boundaries. And they actually, in a mutual friendship like that, you want to hear about other people's boundaries. You want to hear about things like this. You may not be doing it on purpose. You may just be somebody who just like, what is that saying? The people closest to us are those we inadvertently take advantage of the most. Thinking they're always going to be there. So like if something comes up, it's like, oh, no problem. Like we can just do that another day, and just maybe doing that a little too often. You know what I mean? It takes work to not get into the habit, because these people are your solid ground. They are the ones you depend on. They're there all the time. They're going to come through for you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you forget that, you have to pay, even more respect to that. You can't be like just taking that for granted, so to speak.
No, exactly.
Right. So this is just a way to show, well, you might be taking that for granted a little bit, and I'm not having it. Like as a friend, I would respect somebody who approached me this way in the boundary test, and it would work, because I would be like, thank you for letting me know. I didn't realize I was doing it so often.
Yeah, imagine being such a bad friend that you take advantage of them. I reward my friends with pizza, guys.
And I should take your time into more consideration. I should not take advantage of your time or take it for granted either.
Exactly.
You don't know why someone is canceling. They might not be doing it on purpose. Just because someone cancels like multiple appointments doesn't mean that they're taking advantage of you or they are taking your time for granted. It might be genuine situations that they had to cancel it. Again, investigation, evidence, and talk it to your friend and say, like you said, yeah, set up a boundary. That's fine.
Exactly.
Well, so imagine if you're that friend, you're like, oh, like you want to hang out with me only when there's nothing else to do? Excuse me? Like I'm the one that get canceled all the time? Like where does that put me in your list of priorities? Like it's kind of like a how to say something without.
How about if they have some problems going on in their home and that's why they make plans, but every time they're dealing with people in their home that don't let them get out of their home and create problems for them every time. Like there are so many reasons why someone has to cancel on someone all the time. Like what the fuck?
Without saying something kind of thing. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So the next one, wait, make sure I didn't. When pressured, my default is then no. I am so stubborn that way too, Ember. I will become immovable. I will take all the time in the world. Like, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Greene seems to see friendship as just another business model. He does. But like, Greene didn't write that. That's Recker and I, from some research.
This is from Recker and
some papers that we read. Yep. Thank you, Grace. Grace is sending us a husky in the mobile plan with Jules there. They're cute little stickers. Thank you, Grace. Ooh. Yeah, they're cute, right? They pop up on the YouTube side on mobile.
Okay.
I don't often see it because I have everything up on the PC. Well, all right, let's go to the next one. So you had friendships, and now I have dating. Oh, this is
dating. But before we move on to that, a friendship boundary test, right? If I go back, if I'm not wrong, that's what they said about it, isn't it? Yeah, here it is. Having it like a friend. I would respect somebody who approached me this way in the boundary test. And yeah, so they treat it as a test. That's what they do. Okay, this is weird. Okay.
Not having it like as a friend. I would respect somebody who approached me this way.
Oh, okay.
In the boundary test, and it would work because I would be like, "Thank you for letting me know. I didn't realize I was doing it so often, and I should take your time into more consideration. I should not take advantage of your time or take it for granted either."
Exactly.
Well, so imagine if you're that friend, you're like, oh, like you want to hang out with me only when there's nothing else to do? Excuse me? Like I'm the one that get canceled all the time? Like where does that put me in your list of priorities? I don't often see it.
Okay, so the example is a friend repeatedly cancels at the last minute. And the suggested response is to stop holding evenings open while remaining willing to make plans when availability is known. The failed response is jealousy, retaliation, or indirect posts. That is good boundary language. I've noticed that last 3 plans changed on the day. I'm happy to make plans, but I will keep evenings open unless you know you're available. It identifies behavior, pattern, impact, and the speaker's future action. It does not demand that the friend feel a certain way. But calling it a test is unnecessary and slightly corrosive, in my opinion. A boundary is not a trap designed to reveal the friend's essence. The response is one piece of information. The context still matters. Care obligations, health, unstable work, avoidance, overcommitment, or simple inconsideration can produce the same cancellation pattern. The boundary should protect the time regardless of whether the friend reacts gracefully. You do not need a psychological verdict to enforce it. They're right that retaliatory jealousy and indirect posting creates ambiguity rather than clarity. This is not failed law 39. It's passive aggression. But the errors and so the errors and fallacies and qualifications here are: it's a strong advice with manipulative labeling. The practical boundary is sensible, but calling it a test or a way to expose someone, it imports an unnecessary covert motive. Risk of attribution error. Response treated as revealing true priorities. False certainty from a single boundary conversation. One response to one conversation is treated as conclusively revealing the entire relationship or person's real priorities. A boundary should be protection, not a bait. Simple as that. Alright. Let me see what's there. This one is okay. Okay, we'll go with this one. 106 to okay, yeah, I think so. We'll talk about this one. 106.39. Let's see. 106.39. 106.39. 106.39. Okay, here you go.
You get family conflict.
Good old family conflict. Calm repeat. A relative criticizes your life choices at every gathering. Why are you attacking me like this?
I know.
Jeez.
Hey, all right, now you did help me come up with all of these resources.
I did. I am attacking myself. I realized this.
We picked these from models that other people put together, psychology papers and things like that. Like,
yep.
I'll take some of the blame.
If you picked up psychology papers, where are they? Did you put them in the live chat somewhere? There's no live chat, so we don't know. So where is it? Like, hello? Which psychology papers did you take this from?
I was there with you when we picked them, but like, you were there.
Yeah. No, I love family conflict.
Okay.
It's always funny watching them squirm. A relative criticizes your life choices at every gathering. Rather than defending every detail, repeat one calm line. I'm not discussing that today. Let's change the subject. The repeated boundary often exposes whether they want connection or control. Why it works? Their escalation becomes visible while you remain consistent. You do not need to win the argument. You show that access to you requires basic respect.
Megan.
The failure version. You deliberately raise a political, financial, or parenting grievance at the holiday meal because you know it will upset them. You may briefly feel powerful, but you risk damaging relationships, isolating family members, and creating conflict that cannot be contained. Or you just throw a grenade in the middle of everyone and watch them all fight over it.
I do not recommend. Yes.
I have done that. I will admit I have thrown that grenade and it was funny. That was years ago when I was less conscientious of just general people. But
hey, we all grow. We all learn
yes.
and grow. We all live, learn and grow. I get it.
Yes.
I get it. And I'm sure we've all done things like that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
family situations can be difficult. There's love always there, but there's also could be disagreements and on different takes on things. I get it. I totally get it.
Well, I believe that probably 99.99% of people have at one point in their life thrown that grenade.
I do.
And I bet if everyone thinks about it, they could probably come up with a point where they've done that.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that the way they lay these out are in best case scenario. Like, it's not always possible to be this calm if you feel personally attacked, by your lifestyle and your choices. Like, we've all had these moments, and I totally get that. And I'm with you. All of these scenarios are based on the perfect answer to that situation. We all know life's not perfect. We all know.
So again, there's this broken record of boundary, which is legitimate. Right? I'm not discussing this today. Let's change the subject. Repeated and the interaction of the boundary is ignored. The point is consistency and not making the other person quote unquote squirm. And McGregor's joking admission that he has thrown a conversational grenade and found conflict funny is relevant because it shows the behavior being discussed, provoking others for entertainment. Claire goes on to say, yeah, we all grow. That response is fair, but growth requires more than normalizing it. And then McGregor goes on to say 99.99% of people have done it. That number is pure decoration. There's no sample, no denominator, no operational definition. It's just a vibe dressed as a statistic. And then, quote unquote, most people have at some point provoked an argument. It might be plausible, but even that would require evidence. Adding 2 decimal places does not turn intuition into measurement. So there's fake precision that's going on there. Appeal to common practice. Everyone does it, so it's softened. Normalization as partial deflection. It's like stupid, so stupid, making my head hurt.
No, our responses aren't always going to be perfect. We all know that even if we do take a moment to think about it, we may not come up with the perfect answer.
Oh yeah, but we're human, we're flawed. Anyone who tries to act holier than thou is fooling themselves.
It is.
If you're not willing to, and here's the interesting thing: if you're not willing to make mistakes, then you're clearly not willing to learn.
But I thought that being angry was making mistakes. Wasn't it? By your thing, being angry was like admitting defeat or giving other people power, and that's a mistake, isn't it? Are you allowed to make that mistake?
We learn from our mistakes. True. It's true.
You learn best from your mistakes, no matter what.
If you actually feel you don't make
again, McGregor talking in absolutes, no matter what. Come on, dude.
Making any mistakes, you're not actually taking a good look at yourself.
Nope.
I would think it's almost impossible for any of us not to make some kind of mistakes.
If you've never made a mistake,
just generic shit again and again.
In your life, either either everyone around you is coddling you, or you've just never lived.
Or you're delusional.
Or you're absolutely delusional. I've known people like that. It's quite.
Or like I said, some people are uncomfortable really looking at actually what they're.
It depends what kind of mistakes, you fucking assholes, and the degree of impact those mistakes can have. God.
Doing and the purpose behind
delusional.
It. I wouldn't say that it's something that everybody spends all day doing all the time. That's not what I'm trying to put out there. But I don't think any of us are perfect. And I think we do learn from our mistakes. That's the key. Accountability and moving forward and looking at what we did, looking at what was wrong with it, taking accountability, what would have been better. Doing what we can to take accountability, make defense, whatever. Move forward, in growth. What's that word? Adulting? Oh.
Yes.
Please don't lecture me for being common sense and everything again. I'll just move on.
I'll let it slide.
So they are discussing imperfection. McGregor says unwillingness to make mistakes means unwillingness to learn, and that people learn best from mistakes, quote unquote, no matter what. Again, yeah, Mistakes can produce powerful learning, but not automatically, and certainly not no matter what. People also repeat mistakes, rationalize them, conceal them, misidentify the cause, receive bad feedback, or learn the wrong lesson. High consequence settings often require engineered controls precisely because trial and error is not an acceptable primary teacher. Research is errorful learning, emphasis corrective feedback. The useful loop is detect the error, understand why it occurred, receive or obtain accurate correction, practice the improved response, verify the change transferred. And that's why in safety work, quote unquote, we learn from mistakes is not permission to wait for harm to happen. Near misses, simulations, hazard identifications, peer learning, and proven controls let us, or risk assessments, they let us learn before someone pays the price. Quote unquote, if you're unwilling to risk any error, exploration and learning can suffer is defensible. Quote unquote, you learn best from mistakes no matter what is not. Yeah, like there have been major reviews where it has been found that errorful learning can be beneficial when followed by corrective feedback. The feedback and analysis are crucial, and again, depends. You making mistakes is not always, shouldn't always be allowed, in my opinion, especially when I come from risk and safety. So again, false universal or universal is being applied here. A context-dependent tendency is stated as an exception lesson rule. Romanticizing failure, mistakes are described as inherently valuable rather than valuable only when examined, corrected, and not needlessly repeated. Or needlessly happening even, especially in safety and risk. Neglect of feedback and error cost. The value of making mistakes is discussed without considering whether correction occurs or whether mistake causes serious avoidable harm. As I said, impact, the degree of impact. False dilemma, make mistakes or you are refusing to learn. You can still learn without making mistakes.
Thank you. Thank you. So for the next one, customer service, this would be one that many of us will recognize. Some of you work in customer service. I know some of you work in customer service. And I know that we deal with customer service. People regularly have to deal with customer service some way, somehow.
I just want to apologize for all the times that I've probably been belligerent to some sort of customer service person.
That's not nice, Rick. Are you? Really? Mr. Manners?
Well, sometimes they do deserve it, and I guess that's me not apologizing for it, so you know what? Screw it.
Oh my. Oh my. The successful use in customer service.
That apology lasted long enough to demonstrate why performative remorse is not accountability. Sometimes they deserve belligerence confuses a legitimate complaint with abusive delivery. A representative can be wrong, dismissive, dishonest, or incompetent. The customer can request escalation, document the interaction, complain, dispute a charge, or leave. None of that requires intimidation. And if the customer is being rude or is trying to intimidate you, again, escalate it.
Composure advantage.
Like, not escalate the situation by trying to intimidate them back. Escalate it via proper, valid channels.
A customer is rude after being told an item cannot be returned. The employee stays brief and calm. I want the help within the policy. I can offer option A or option B. A bystander, manager, or recording will generally see who is being reasonable. Why it works. The employee does not take the bait. The angry person may reveal that they are trying to intimidate someone into breaking policy. Just do what you want. Like, if I aggravate them enough, they'll just give me the money and I can go away. But the failure version is if the employee mirrors the customer's hostility, mocks them, or tries to provoke a scene. Even if the customer started it, Video clips often remove context, and the employee can face discipline. Going outside of policy, or making matters worse, letting the issue escalate. Things like that. Well, in customer service, people are always trying to bully you into going against the rules and just doing what they want. Even when you're offering them solutions like option A or B, they're like, not good enough. This is what I want, and you're going to do it.
What?
In customer service, people are always trying to bully you into going against the rules and just doing what they want. Even when you're
That's not true, Claire. That is absolutely not true. Not always. Again, talking in absolutes and in universal general rules over generalization without realizing what the fuck they're talking about. Holy shit.
Offering them solutions like option A or B. They're like, not good enough. This is what I want, and you're going to do it. Or I'm going to stand here and scream, and I'm going to call you just for whatever. And
that doesn't happen always, Claire. You said always.
I threatened to report you to your supervisor.
That's what I think, that these people think that just because they can speak English, they whatever comes out of their mouth makes sense. When it doesn't.
Supervisor. All of that.
Do you know what
So they go through this, script and all that thing, and Claire then goes on to generalize that people in customer service are always being bullied. That people in customer services, they always get bullied into breaking rules. Some are, others face customers who have been repeatedly transferred, misled, denied contractual rights, or placed in impossible automated system or systems. Context matters on both sides, Claire. Yeah, EMP, full of superficial crap. The employee's safety and dignity matter, so do the customer, and also the customer's rights. The answer, again, is in evidence, escalation pathways, clear policies, and proportionate conduct, not deciding one class is automatically the villain. Errors and fallacies and qualifications here are victim blaming or abuse rationalization. Mistreatment of workers is partially excused by suggesting that belligerence may be deserved instead of separating service failure from abusive conduct. Overgeneralization about customers. Some difficult encounters are used to characterize customers as a whole. Policy as morality fallacy. Within policy is assumed to mean fair or correct. Sometimes policies are not fair. And the customer can express that. They should be able to express that. And they might get angry about it sometimes. Unfairness makes people angry, Claire. Then binary character casting. The participants are sorted into a reasonable calm person or an unreasonable angry person. Someone can't be reasonable and angry. Or someone can't be calm and unreasonable at the same time and be a condescending prick. Just because someone has a valid complaint does not license abuse on either side. What the hell? It's not that difficult. We'll cover this last one and then I will call it a day because Chesh is about to go live in an hour. So I want everyone to have their time. So we'll discuss this one and then we will continue in part 2. But yeah, we have seen so far, their examples and how to react with it. They're so shallow, hollow, superficial. No depth at all. Full of fallacies and errors. God. All right. Moving. Yeah, and many, yes, EMP, you're right. Many can be angry and justified. People are angry with ICE. Are they not justified? I'm quite sure they are. Fucking hell. Alright. 1433, alright, yeah. This is the last one we'll do for the day.
Do you know what the best representation of some kind of customer service is? I don't know if anyone else does, but both me and Claire love watching Cop Slop. And I've
Tell on us.
well, I mean, too bad.
It is an activity that when we don't want to actually deal with anything serious, we will put that on because we can just, it's not a big conversation while it's on. It's not a, taking it apart. Yeah.
Yes. But I see police as the ultimate customer service. That and adult daycare. But that's besides the point. You can always tell when someone wants, 90% of the time, you can always tell when someone wants the police to do something so they can either A, get clout, or B, sue the city. Because every time they will make it obvious that they're trying to get some kind of reaction. Every time. And this, and they're just, customers are absolutely entitled. They are genuinely entitled. And the worst thing that ever happened was people misconstruing the saying, the customer is always right, and not properly saying the entire quote, which is, the customer is always right in matters of taste.
EMP from the live chat. This 1 millimeter depth from these grifters is getting old. Tell me about it. So, McGregor calls police, quote unquote, the ultimate customer service, and then, quote unquote, adult daycare, then claims 90% of the time one can tell someone is provoking police for clout or to sue the city. He says, quote unquote, every time their motive is obvious and calls customers entitled. This is the weakest and most prejudicial section so far, in my opinion. Police encounters are not customer service transactions. Police exercise coercive state power, detention, search, arrest, force evidence collection, and referral for prosecution. Calling that quote-unquote adult daycare trivializes both the risk officers face and the rights of the people they encounter. Sable Eagle from the live chat, quote-unquote, I see police as the ultimate customer service, unquote, a fascist automatically. There's no way to believe that without being one. Sure. The 90% number, McGregor just invented it. And then he immediately follows it by every time, which is not even internally consistent. Is it 90% or 100%? Most seriously, this rhetoric primes the audience to infer malicious motive from visible frustration. People may be frightened, intoxicated, disabled, traumatized, confused about instructions, asserting rights, or reacting to prior treatment. Warrantless entry onto their property. Yes, some people do bait officers for content or litigation. Again, you establish that through evidence, not television-trained intuition. Television is very selective. They don't show you everything. Television shows you what will capture your attention and captivate you. And confrontation does that. God. Oh. So quote unquote, you can always tell is precisely the overconfidence that rigorous investigative interviewing warns against. Demeanour is unreliable, and even trained professionals make poor veracity judgments when relying on when they rely on familiar behavioral cues. And as I said, a police entertainment program, it's also a selected and edited sample, very selective and edited sample. It cannot tell you the base rate of motives in all police encounters. They chose dramatic cases because they're dramatic, and that's why you guys watch them, because it's slop. Dramatized slop. So, fact check. Behavior-based truth judgments are weak and unreliable. And edited police media are not representative samples. Errors, fallacies, and qualifications. Fake precision. A numerical percentage is attached to an impression without a sample, denominator, method, or data source. Base rate neglect. A vivid selected example is used to infer motive while the ordinary frequency of other explanations is ignored. Selection bias from entertainment footage. Content selected because it is dramatic or unusual and is treated as representative of ordinary encounters. Mind reading. This happens a lot in Clare and McGregor's case. The speakers claim to know an internal motive from outward behavior without independent evidence. Dehumanizing framing. People are reduced to stereotypes or burdens rather than treated as individuals whose conduct must be assessed case by case. There's a contradiction here, 90% versus every time. I can always tell is not evidence. And I don't know why Claire gives no pushback to McGregor at all on all this. She's given him pushback only twice in hour and 16 minutes. Twice, that's it. And that too where it gave him an opportunity to go back and just carry on with the original rhetoric. She doesn't correct the rhetoric. She just gives him a little pushback to just make the argument a little defensible. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna stop here because I don't know, my throat is giving up on me for some reason. And also Chesh is going to go live soon in 50-ish minutes. So we'll do a part 2. It's only how many hours? It's an hour left, so we can do another part 2, another 3 hours, I guess. But we'll do that or I'll just go through the rest of the stuff, my notes, and see if there's anything else of importance or not. But I think so I've made my point. These people are full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. They are all surface level, hollow, and shallow, and they don't do any introspect. Nothing. No data, no evidence, just stereotypes and classic just overgeneralization, mind reading, selection bias and what do you say? Result based causation. That's what they do. It's just and just like yeah, this and that. They just read the thing and they just agree with it and just move on, or just put crap in the middle that makes no sense. They're made, for me in this script so far, they made sense only twice, and that too it's like barely. So yeah, I'm done for today. Thank you everyone for coming and for listening to me, and yeah, we will do a part 2 of this. Thanks for coming. Bye.